Straw Hut Media.
Welcome to another episode of Genuinely Gigi. I am here with my always kooky friend, Anita. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm good.
I think you've lost more weight.
You think so?
Mm-hmm.
It could be the cut of the pants.
I wasn't even looking at your thighs, but yes, that's probably what it is. It's probably the cut of your pants. Oh my God.
Maybe
You've definitely lost some weight and you've definitely been working your ass off, which makes me happy about this conversation because we talked to Kati. We hit those trigger points that you're sort of dealing with as far as you're not able to say no to people. Mm-hmm. You take on a million tasks. You have stress. You drink 5,000 cups of coffee.
24 ounces is...
You don't sleep well. You don't eat. She's really able to start the dissection process of what people with a lot of anxiety and stress need to do. I can't stop thinking about the body shake. I mean, that
body shake was actually...
Was it good?
I'm surprisingly of how... Can I say how stupid it almost is?
Did you feel stupid?
No. Just the concept of like, just get up and shake it off.
How simple it is.
How simple. Is that the word simple?
Simple, not stupid.
That's something that simple actually made a little bit of a difference. And I do think that I can see myself like getting up between like meetings now and stuff and just shaking it off.
So she had body shakes with Kati and apparently now she's able to work. I touched a little bit too deep onto my past in self-infliction cutting that I used to do. And God, oh my God, that made me want to like spark up the joint so fast and like get high. But I was so scared to get you high and that you were going to fuck up the whole, your first time. Yes, I did it and I just took my deep breaths mentally and just like.
So you went back to the way you dealt with it.
It got deep. It was funny. It was informative. It was a great conversation. I'm really looking forward to having all of you guys listen to this. Let's go ahead and introduce Kati Morton.
You know her from Shaws of Sunset. You know she doesn't hold back.
But I was starting to be one of those weird people with my dance moves. I was uninhibited. I was free. I didn't care. At one point I laid on the floor and I was like an octopus starfish kind of thing.
Today's guest is someone that kind of, hits a very soft spot for me. So to switch things up today, Gigi has given me the honor and the opportunity to take lead in the conversation. Mm-hmm. And so Kati is best known for being a YouTuber with a self-titled channel. She has developed her own mental social network. She has leveraged social media to share mental health information worldwide. For the past 8 years, she has gained 1 million subscribers and over 80 million views on YouTube. She has a licensed marriage and family therapist, and has a private practice in Santa Monica. Kati received her bachelor's degree in psychology and later earning her master's in clinical psychology from Pepperdine's Graduate School. And you have appeared from E! News, CBS The Doctors, KTLA's Morning News, Good Day LA. You've been showcased on UK's Glamour magazine, and the list goes on and on and on. You've published your first book, Are You Okay? And this is a guide to caring for your mental health. And now you've followed up with the book Traumatized, which is to identify, understand, and cope with PTSD and emotional stress.
That's me. Yeah.
That's you. And which I have to say, this is available for pre-order, or
yes.
It's going to be on shelves on September 7th.
Isn't she pretty, my book
baby? She's so pretty, actually. Yes, she's very beautiful. So again, you could buy this on September 7th. It'll be on shelves. So Kati, you mainly specialize in experiencing with eating disorders, self-harming behaviors, anything that's just related to mental health. And so essentially you have accomplished a lot. And we're so excited to have you here today on Genuinely Gigi. So we want to give you a warm, very special welcome to our show. And thank you for being here, Kati Morton.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Katie, thank you so much for being here. And I just want to take a second and bring light to a situation that you may not be aware of, and I'd like to inform you about, is that the reason that Anita is doing your intro today, which I usually do for all the guests, is Anita is one of my dearest friends. And she's very high strung on anxiety and stress, and her nerves tend to take over her. And I tried to explain to her, I said, you got this. This is your arena. This is your ball game. You're dealing with this. So I want you to take over. So she was very nervous in just putting all this together. And I just want you to know, I'm really proud of you right now, Anita, for doing that.
Okay.
Yes. It's okay. You smashed it. It was a good job. So thank you so much, Katie, for joining us. There is a world of people out there that are dealing with an array of forms of stress, and they come in all different channels and all different forms, and they affect us differently. We want to talk to you today about your expertise and the questions that someone who actually suffers with stress and anxiety, like Anita, the questions that she would have, which is, perhaps going to be very similar to what a lot of people would be questioning. I wanted to also mention a very interesting conversation starter. We all see what Britney Spears is going through right now. This conservatorship, and she wants out of it. The court has denied her. She's going back, firing people. People are resigning. She's going back. I don't know. I feel like sometimes maybe I'm the only one who thinks maybe it was there for a reason. Maybe it wasn't handed to the smartest of people, her family or whatnot. But I feel like there's an underlying issue with Britney that needs to be definitely addressed, and maybe handing her that much power when it comes to money or decision making is not a safe thing for her life or her children's lives. So we see one side of it and not all sides of it. So what's your take? Do you see that similarly? Is that something, common?
Yeah, I agree with you, Gigi. I mean, again, we don't know, right? I'm not her therapist. I'm not in the inside circle, but I do know from past experience getting conservatorship and having patients. I used to work in a hospital setting. So most of my patients who had schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, schizoaffective disorder, they were conserved. And I know just how difficult it is for someone to be conserved. So for those people who don't understand, a conservatorship means that due to some disability or mental illness or something going on, I am unable to make good decisions for myself. Therefore, I give my rights pretty much away to someone. And you can be conserved by the state. So it can be someone that the state puts in, which I think is what Britney switched over to now. Or it can be, usually we prefer it to be a family member because, we would all hope that our family would have our best interest in mind. Now, with Britney, obviously it's difficult because there's only so many things people we see in media and, online. And I think we'd all agree that online isn't always correct. They can make up any stories about us or say whatever they want. But I think we do know, I believe she shared that she does have bipolar disorder, and that can come along with what is called mania. And that's when we can be super impulsive and it can be difficult for us to make good decisions. And we can do things that we normally wouldn't. A lot of my patients will say they don't feel like they're themselves. And so I believe that because they upheld it in the courts, there must be something there that we don't understand. Like maybe she isn't quite managing her bipolar disorder in a way that makes her suitable to make decisions, or maybe
Correct.
there's been behaviors we don't know, right? It's not our business either. I think she has every right to a private life, but those things could make her financially, or like even just her business or with her children, like any of those areas of her life could be difficult for her to manage appropriately.
Right. I grew up a little bit of a wild child, and I've had my crazy moments. I mean, we saw Britney shave her head, come out with a baseball bat, slamming windows. I've had worse situations, but I never was put in a situation of needing that type of watch over me. I was going through phases of my life. I was going through stress factors that I only knew how to cope by lashing out with anger. That was my way of dealing with stress. And once I stopped dealing with my stress in that way, I began getting panic attacks. because my only form of release
With anger
was fighting and punching people. And I also went through a history of cutting for many years when I was a teenager. So all these things I was stopping, and then panic attacks came. You know, do you get panic attacks regularly?
Not regularly. I get little attacks, but I think I've had maybe 3 panic attacks my whole life, and more recently.
Why?
Yeah.
Say.
Well, COVID, I think, increased stress in a lot of us,
too.
whether we're able to admit it or not. What our stress response is, that's the term we use, is like fight, flight. Or if we can't do those things, we freeze, right? A lot of times we'll hear fight, flight, freeze. And COVID was an intense threat, right? And it shot us all into our stress response, and I always tell people, I'm like, you didn't have to lose someone to COVID or have COVID yourself to be affected by it. We were all affected by it. And my patients with anxiety, the ones with social anxiety at first were like, woo, this is so easy. This is amazing. Stay home. Don't see people.
Right.
But still it would come out in panic attacks because that stress, anxiety, that feeling is still there.
Right.
And it seems like, how do you tell your patients to deal with the panic attacks, and just overall to deal with the stress, and just to do you?
Well, why don't you ask about for yourself? Because each patient is so unique and individual that it's sort of hard to say you deal with it this way and that's the whole way for everybody. You know what I mean? So what are your main triggers of stress? And then maybe we can see what Kati would suggest for you.
Okay. So I'm going to use this as a therapy session for
Yes,
myself.
yes.
This is great. This is amazing. Thanks, guys. Okay.
I've been begging her to go to therapy, by the way. So
You're not in therapy?
No, so she's been trying to get me to go to therapy. She's been trying to also prescribe with her Gigi weed, like cannabis, on me, thinking that that's going to be the cure, which is a whole...
This is all she has, and she's anxiety driven. She has 100 of these Starbucks
that's
coffees.
24 ounces.
A lot of caffeine.
So that probably does not help much either. But yeah, so I believe that, with my... I think, yes, we went into this, quarantine, and everyone was home and we weren't doing anything. And I'm an event planner. And so in my industry, we just kind of went to like zero. And then suddenly, so then I had anxiety of like, oh my God, I'm not making money. What am I going to do? All these events, this is my life. So then you're kind of sitting around. Then after then you deal with that and all the stresses, then suddenly the world opens up kind of, and everyone wants to have a party. No one wants to work. And so
you get 100 phone calls and 100 events, and you say yes to all of them.
And I don't know how to say no because I'm a people pleaser. And so all this is going on, and it's like, then, luckily I don't have any kids, so they would be so neglected. But I do have, friends and family, and I do have to take care of the work and the money and this and that. So So again, I've had a couple panic attacks. My eating has gone to hell. I think sometimes I won't wash my hair for like 2 weeks. I'll try to take my body showers every day. I don't have time. If I'm in the shower, I feel like I'm missing something with work, and I don't have time for that. I don't have time to make a proper meal. What do you do? How do I fix this? And how do I deal with this?
Girl,
stress. There's
that's
a lot
right there. Don't have you
There's
fix
a
it first.
lot. This is my head.
Woo!
Yeah. So how do you deal with this, this stress and this just anxiety and everything for me? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, and it is a lot. And I think anybody with anxiety would tell you it feels like a lot, right? It's not like anxiety is not fun. It's not, it is motivating within a little, like a small amount.
That's true.
But after that, it becomes detrimental.
Yes, yes.
And so I really think for you, and honestly, for everybody, this is something that can help anybody who's struggling with anxiety, is identifying your triggers. Like Gigi mentioned, what are your main triggers for this? And it sounds like, just based on what you said, sounds like making others happy is a huge trigger. Pleasing people in work, being good at work. And I don't know if maybe money is also, because money's stressful for all of us, right? Even if you have a lot or a little, it doesn't matter. You're still managing it and trying to figure out how to deal with it. I think maybe those could be some of the triggers, but it's helpful for you to just take a beat and consider what is upsetting you most. Like if you're able to remember those panic attacks that you've had, like what took place the week leading up, that's really helpful information for any therapist, because then I can try to figure out what the main triggers were for you in that moment. And then we try to find ways to better cope. So kind of like what Gigi was saying, how when she was a kid, she was like anger out. I was totally that kid too, by the way, Gigi. I didn't know how else to express myself other than through anger until I started therapy, thank God. But we have to find healthy outlets for you. And that can be anything. Like, I actually encourage you to try this today and report back, standing up and doing a full body shake. So when our body, I know this sounds really crazy, but like a dog out of the back, like from nose to tail.
Can I do it right now?
Yeah, like shake like a crazy person, like all the way, shake, and then stomp your feet a little. Shake your head around.
Shake it, woo!
And then shake out your hands like you've got water on.
Shake out your hands, your brain,
them.
shake your head, shake your brain, shake your brain, shake your tits, nipples. She doesn't really have big boobs; they don't move. That's okay. Shake them. Oh, there they go. They're jiggling. There we go. Okay.
You do it. Oh
Mine just wobble like fat blobs. They just wobble.
And then we take a deep breath and we sit down. And surprisingly enough, that doing a full body shake. So how do you feel? I'm just curious. If we take a second.
Actually,
do we
it could feel, yes. Like it feels good. I feel like I got like a little adrenaline rush too. Is that normal? Like it's just, yeah.
It's like a release of
It's like a
ego.
release of-
You're
yeah.
releasing ego and like getting a rush of positivity all in 1 second by doing that.
I realized
so I encourage you to do those in the morning.
I'm like out of breath.
I get out of breath too. I always tell people if you're out of breath, no judgments. But what that does is when we're in our stress response, that fight, flight, freeze, what our nervous system does is it cues us up to take action, right? Am I going to fight? Am I going to run away? Like, what am I going to do? But when we feel anxiety, it's just uncontrollable worry, right? We're constantly worrying about the what ifs, and there's nothing we can really do, right? You can't fight that, and you really can't run from that. And so our bodies cued us up for action, and there's no action we can take. And so forcing that action through a body shake actually releases, or what they call completes, that stress response. It gets that out of your system. And so I'd encourage you to incorporate that in. Even like I do it personally at night, because when I try to go to bed is when like anxious thoughts will start to swirl. Like, oh, what if tomorrow that doesn't go well? Or, oh, and if I find that, I just stand up and shake out. And at first I feel like, and then when I breathe out, it kind of comes down for me. And so that's one way to kind of help you in the moment better cope.
We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back,
I went through a lot of different phases of my life where I've gone through intense levels of different forms of therapy, different forms of healing. I went through a lot of different phases of my life where I've gone through intense levels of different forms of therapy, different forms of healing for whatever I'm going through in that period of time. And one of the places that I went away to was amazing. It was more of a spiritual retreat. And all throughout the day, every day, we were like in the middle of nowhere in the woods. It was very, it was amazing place. Yeah. But every day we had this thing, which was like a music therapy, but not typical music therapy. It was, the instructor would have a song, and it was designed very specifically with the tempo. It's almost like a trance. It comes up, the tempo goes up, it beats. We're fast, and then it comes, right? And over a course of maybe 10 minutes. And he would say, just release your body. Feel with your body what the earth is telling you, what the sounds are telling you. And in the beginning, I was kind of peeking through my eye and looking at people, doing that little peek. And I was kind of giggling because I'm seeing people just doing some funky stuff. And after like the third or fourth day of being there, I was, eventually releasing my anxieties slowly, but I was starting to be one of those weird people with my dance moves. I was uninhibited. I was free. I didn't care. At one point I laid on the floor and I was like an octopus starfish kind of thing, because that's where it led me to. It led me there, and I was okay with it. I didn't care. So it was such a release of ego for me. That experience was my ego release. But it took me many, many, many years, many traumas to get there. Again, I said when I was a teenager, I was a big cutter.
I was going to bring that up again right now.
I was a big
interested
cutter.
in that, 'cause
That
you
was my
mentioned-
healing. You know, I unfortunately was put into therapy at a very young age, and I had a horrible, horrible therapist. Her name is Wendy Fisher. Bitch.
I'm so sorry.
I can't get sued for it. She was my therapist.
Okay. So
I
Wendy's off
was
my
maybe
list.
12 or 13 years old, and she told me by the time I'm 18, I'm either going to be dead or in jail for life.
As if that's helpful. Why
know.
would people say things like that?
So she said, because of that, I need therapy 2 to 3 times per week, or else I'm going to be dead or in jail for life by the time I'm 18
that
years
seems
old.
a little manipulative, like a business move or
I think
something.
my parents, I didn't know that that's something I'm supposed to tell my parents. I mean, my parents are sending me to this woman. So apparently this is where I'm supposed to be. This is what I'm supposed to be told. I had bad experiences, so I continued, getting in trouble. But for me was when I didn't know how to punish the people who were hurting me in my life, I would punish myself with a razor blade.
Yeah, of course. A lot of my self-injury patients say it's like you get to finally express the hurt and pain you feel inside in an outside way.
Right. And it didn't hurt, and it's interesting that those cuts never hurt. You cannot feel it. And I didn't realize that until years later, where I had healed so much of that, part of my life. And I said, I just want to see like what it was like. And I got a little thing and I pricked it and I screamed. I was like, oh my God, what did I do? How did I used to? Because
So
from
crazy.
top to bottom, my body would be sliced. And that lasted for about 3-4 years of my life. And I was always able to get out of PE class because I would tell my parents, I don't want to get dressed for PE and I don't want anyone to see. And they were so probably shocked or embarrassed or just completely did not know what the fuck to do with it. They were like, okay. So they wrote the notes and everything was fine. And, as long as no one talked about it, no one said anything, So it's like people find ways to handle stress. That was my,
That was your outlet.
Exactly. And then, fist fighting was my outlet, and then drugs were my outlet, and then alcohol. And then, it just kept sort of going until I finally became this little Buddha. And I don't know how it happened. It's probably all the weed I smoke. But I healed a lot. I definitely healed a lot. And I want that for Anita because I see where Anita's going with her stress and her anxiety. And it's not in a healthy direction.
And it's not. And it's interesting that, obviously something from childhood triggered, like the whole PTSD for you to have the anxiety, to get to the anger and all that stuff. And then you had ways of relieving yourself or, releasing it. I don't know what I do I guess I'm going to start shaking and I think that's going to help me. But what do I need to do? I mean, I'm not going to lie. I mean, I take medication for this. I take
medication super helpful.
Anti-anxiety. And again, that's something that I know that you feel like I should try to do different.
I just don't
get off of it.
I don't like the medication you're taking, and I do not believe that anyone should prescribe you medication, antidepressants, antipsychotics, without current therapy happening with it. I do not think medication is just something you write off and say, go cure your issue. No. It doesn't work like that.
It also stems to this too, is that, I come from a family, my dad is a retired physician. And so we always were, so growing up, going to therapy, talking about this, having mental illness, having mental health, whatever it is not good. And so I think for me, it's something that I try to hide behind, which I do love that you really are trying to get that stigma away and you're trying to say that, no, it's okay. You have to come to terms. You have to figure this out. You have to fix this. And so that's great. Thank you for doing that and doing this for millions of people.
You need to read Katie's books.
So I am going to read your books. I watched a lot of your different YouTubes for the last few days. So it's been great and helpful. I mean, I can talk to you about just so much, just eating disorders. I never thought I had an eating disorder.
I want to talk about that. Thank you for saying that. Is this an eating disorder? Let me ask her.
Yeah.
She, because of her stress and her anxiety and her work, so to speak, she's not finding proper times to eat. Okay, she's not finding enough time to eat. So, is that an eating disorder?
Not necessarily. The eating disorders kind of in the same way, Gigi, you're talking about your self-injury. Eating disorders are the same type of thing. They're a coping skill. So it's really when we use food as a way to control ourselves or to numb out. So I don't know, Anita, if you're not eating as a way to like not feel, or if it's the anxiety, because I will be honest, my patients with really high levels of anxiety are like, I struggle to know when I'm hungry. Like that's, and I'm just going, and then I crash. And so I would say if that's what's happening, no, it's not an eating disorder. But if you're using food as a way to help you feel better, then yes, it is.
Okay.
And that's kind of the difference. And a way that, if that's even not clear, if anybody listening is like, well, that's not my situation. If you find your brain space is mostly taken up with thoughts about food, it's an eating disorder.
I think I have a lot of issues in a sense that food does consume a lot of my thoughts. And I do sometimes, like, I feel guilty if I eat whatever, and I have my cheat days, and I've always had body image disorder. I have a lot of issues we got to work on. I'm going to call you tomorrow or make an appointment to come to Santa Monica to see you. So I think it's partially that I do have an eating disorder in a sense that I thought I didn't because I'm not anorexic in the sense that I do eat, and I've never made myself throw up.
A lot of people do eat. Eating disorders take all shapes and sizes.
Yes.
I'd honestly I think it's just my opinion. I don't know the stats, but I would argue that the most common eating disorder is actually binge eating disorder, where people overeat and don't do any compensatory behavior like exercise, laxatives, throwing up, any of that.
Yeah.
I think that, that is the most common.
Yeah.
And I've had many patients who, what we'd call it, they fall into what's called OSFED, which is a horrible acronym for, it's like otherwise specified eating or feeding disorder. And really what that means is maybe we don't quite meet the criteria for anorexia or bulimia or binge eating disorder, but we have something going on that makes our relationship with food not a healthy one.
Yeah, I definitely have that.
And I do want to say one thing real quick. You guys talked about medication.
Yeah. And
Gigi, I do agree with you that medication without therapy is not ideal. I always talk about medication, especially, and I know not everybody has access to this, but especially not from a primary care doctor, meaning like your regular doctor. Yeah. I really encourage people to see a psychiatrist because they specialize in the treatment of mental illness, right? And a psychiatrist in conjunction with some form of therapy. That could be from a therapist or a psychologist or, counselor, whatever you have available to you, because all research proves that with therapy and medication, that gives us the best result. And as a therapist, I make a lot of calls to doctors to tell them, hey, these are the symptoms I'm seeing. Here's what's going on with my patient, because I'm spending more time with them. And, I'm your advocate. And obviously you can go into your appointments and try to tell them, hey, I don't like this one. It makes it hard to sleep, or I feel this way or that way. But, together we can make sure you get the right medication. Because if you're still feeling this anxious, I would argue that it's very possible the medication is not working for you.
Okay.
Do you think a good starting point maybe for Anita would be to learn how to say maybe no to a client and just say, I need this couple days to myself. I need this week to myself. I need this month to myself. But whatever it is that a healthy start, or is that too extreme for someone like Anita?
I would say that that's a good thing to do. But I don't know if it's the best place to start. I think for starting, Anita, my homework for you would be to start paying attention to how you talk to yourself. So what's the conversation that you have about work or about what you're doing? And I know that feels very tedious. You're like, I have a lot of thoughts every day. Like, shit, am I going to be doing this forever? No. I want you to pick, because the weird thing, just random factoid from research, we know that 93% of the thoughts we've had or that we're having, we've had before. So we're just having these repeat conversations like over and over. And so if you can pick out like your top 5 to 10, don't do any more than 10, but as long as there's at least 5 of these common thoughts, things like, and I'm going to speak personally, I'm lazy, I'm stupid, nobody likes me, right? We've all had those thoughts. Those are very common. And yours are probably, everybody has their own specific ones, like I never get enough done, or, I know that girl at work doesn't like me, whatever, we have these certain things, or my body looks terrible. So I want you to kind of get a hold of these top ones. And then I want you to use what I call bridge statements, which means that instead of trying to do the opposite or like think positive, just like fake it till you make it. Say, no, I'm beautiful, amazing, everybody loves me. Because our brain's going to be like, no, I don't believe that. Instead, let's build a bridge to the positive one. So a bridge statement to start out would be something like, I'm open to trying this. I don't know if it's going to work, but Katie says it does. I'll give it a go. Or maybe I could believe in the future that I'm not as lazy as I think I am. You know, so we just maybe possibilities, being open to it. I know it doesn't seem like a positive thought, but it's not negative either. It's just in this bridge land. And then we'll slowly build on it. Like if you start to feel like, yeah, maybe these are kind of working, then that would be your bridge statement. I believe bridge statements actually might help. Seems to be helping. I could think that I'm actually a worthwhile person. I think I might be able to, right? And just doing that slowly. And again, I know it sounds tedious, but our thoughts shape our life. And if we can change just a couple of them, if we can work on 5, I swear to God, it will change your life.
I agree. I agree with Katie completely. And I would have to say, in my opinion, that bridge is what I see Anita having the hardest time with, is focusing on that bridge. She's a goal type of a person, which I think majority of people are. We see the end result as what we want. We don't realize what the first step is that we have to take, and the thousands of steps after that in order to reach that goal. And it's a lot. That process is a lot. It's hard. It's painful. It's difficult. But knowing that you're getting to that end result makes it, worth it for me. And I feel like that's something that you need to also focus on, is not always that big picture, because you have big picture mentality. Like you see like the of everything, But it's hard because every guy you date, you see, are you walking down the aisle and having his babies? That's toxic in the first date. Every business. Okay, so we're going to be a multi-million-dollar company. We're going to be shipping to this place, shipping to that place. No, we need to just sign up our company first with the company, just set our register in our name. So I think those things cause stress, because when you don't map out that bridge correctly, when you don't put your first foot onto the bridge and you just want to fly instead, we cause stress and anxiety, because we usually will fail because we didn't do it properly.
Yeah, very true.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's like not doing the black and white thinking, the all or nothing, the in or the out, right? We want to find a place where it's in the gray, where we're just like working on it. And it's hard, Anita, and your anxiety brain's going to fight you to be like, no, I have to do all of this 100%. I have to fix all of my thoughts. That's why I was like, it's against the rules for you to do more than 10.
Yeah.
Right.
I want you to keep it honed, and so we do little by little.
Baby steps.
Baby steps.
Another thing that you do talk a lot about is social media and the causes of that with bringing in stress and anxiety to people. How, with my industry and with and most people, you want to be tapped into the world and what's going on. How do you suggest to deal with social media and not let it get to you and cause those anxieties? And
that's a good question.
And
that's a great question.
The fucking trolls. How do you deal with trolls?
Yes, trolls.
Oh God. I block and mute with ease.
Yes.
And I don't think twice about it. Because if somebody's that upset that it's just spewing out into strangers on the internet, they've got bigger fish to fry, and it's not about you, which I know is hard. Trust me, as someone online, I know how hard it is to hear people trash talk you when they don't know you at all. But my advice to people is to be very careful and selective about who you follow. I know we live in a space where people might get offended that, oh, I met them and they don't follow me. Anybody out there, don't feel like you have to follow me at all. You can, if my content and what I'm putting out into the world isn't making you feel better or making you feel more connected, don't follow.
Right.
And I think we have to kind of assess who we're spending, because we're digesting it, right? What we see, what we engage with, we're digesting. And social media allows for this huge comparison factor. And to protect, especially Anita, what we're working on, to protect our self-talk, we want to make sure that the people you're following and connecting with are people who make you feel good and feel like a breath in, that we're not looking and saying, oh, I should be doing more. Because that's only going to feed that anxious.
That's the thing. Like, I follow all these other planners and florists, and I'm like, oh my God, they just did another event and they're so busy, and I am busy, but I'm not as busy, or they worked with that person. And so then it's like constantly, but then I do also feel like I need to kind of keep that around so that it does motivate me. But then again, so I think you're right. I think just kind of pick and choose and not,
because I think you're motivated.
Yeah.
I would argue that maybe we don't need extra oomph for you to feel motivated. I think you're already very motivated. I think muting people for a little while is something I do, especially if it's like a friend that I think might be hurt, because if I don't feel able to say to them, hey, I'm working on myself and this has nothing to do with you, it's actually me, like, you're doing great and I love you, but I just gotta dig in and I can't be following people. If you don't feel you can have that conversation, muting is great on Instagram and stuff like that. So that you don't have to.
I don't even know how to do that. Okay.
Oh yeah, go when you go to their profile, I think you go to the 3 dots at the top and you can either turn on notifications or you can mute.
Oh.
And so I would just encourage you to mute.
Okay.
And then it still looks like you're following them, but you won't see any of their posts.
Interesting. Okay. That's good to know. I'm a little late to the game sometimes with stuff, so
it's okay, but I think through social media we can be traumatized, we can feel overwhelmed, we can compare, which makes us feel worse about ourselves, and our self-confidence can go down. And so I just really encourage you to be careful about who you follow and what content you let yourself digest and absorb.
Yeah.
And again, mute and unfollow easily with ease.
We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back...
And I don't want to lie either. Therapy's hard work.
It
like
is.
the work that Gigi's done, the work I've done. It's not easy, but I can tell you it's worth it.
Thank you so much. I could, and honestly, I know both of us could probably talk to you for hours and hours, days and days, and I will probably definitely be in touch with you after this, after
happy
today,
to offer recommendations and referrals, because I really do think therapy is going to be life-changing.
Yeah. And I think that just connecting with that therapist is a big challenge, and that's what sometimes people run away from, but you shouldn't. You should, it's good, and it's okay.
And I don't want to lie either. Therapy's hard work.
It
like
is.
the work that Gigi's done, the work I've done. It's not easy, but I can tell you it's worth it. So just stick with it. Know that you will feel better. You will find yourself feeling less anxious. You'll have less urgent, less panic attacks. It'd be easier for you to say no. All of that will come.
Okay. Okay, and then so this is a part of the fun part now. So it's called Forgive Me, I Have Sinned. It's a little game that we like to play, and so I'm going to ask you a question or two, and you just feel free to answer it or not. So have you ever been stressed out while writing your book on being stressed?
That's a great question. And the truth about it is, yes, it was there's been multiple times in my life, because I do mental health content, where I'm struggling with the thing that I'm working on. Like when I was doing, I did this whole YouTube series about burnout, and I was super burned out at the time. And the irony was not lost on me. I was like, geez, Louise. And then even writing both of my books, I don't even know how to express to people how much work and effort goes into a book, but it is extremely overwhelming. And I definitely feel stressed out while I'm doing it, while I'm writing about how to de-stress. And it's like, take your own advice, Katie. Maybe take a break. So, yeah.
It's inevitable, right? It's inevitable. We all stress out. It's just learning how to cope with our stress and how to guide our stress and not let our stress guide us.
Yes.
Yeah. And also just getting to feel, like, for me, I know my red flags for when I need to take a break. Like, oh, am I like tearful a lot? Like, when I'm watching TV or even talking to a friend, I want to cry. Am I in the car listening to music and I want to cry? I'm like, I got to get back into my therapist, like, immediately. Like, things are escalating.
You haven't smoked a lot during this podcast.
Well, I was afraid because Anita doesn't smoke pot, and
thought it was because
she claims she gets super stoned just by sitting next to me. I mean, she's talking about having chest pressure and high, and things were flying around.
I get a contact high.
So this is like your first time, sort of, leading the podcast, and I just wanted you to be. I don't want to be blamed for you fucking up.
Which I kind of wish you did, so that I could blame you for fucking up. But yes. Okay. Well, thank you
You're doing great.
Thank you.
Great.
I appreciate that you took that into consideration.
Yeah, and marijuana, it can be helpful. Like, I know it's not for everybody, but people always ask, like, oh, what are your thoughts about CBD or THC or weed in general or any other, drug to assist? And I know when it comes to weed specifically, there's tons of research to prove that it does help people. And so, obviously consult with your doctor and assess your own situation, but I don't see anything wrong with it personally. And they're doing some research on psilocybin, which is like part of what magic mushrooms would be for those people who don't know.
That is something that my brother-in-law wants me to get into. There's a place that does it. And it's kind of it's not ayahuasca, but it's in that family. So I was just gonna ask, have you ever?
They're doing psychedelics a lot right now.
Psychedelics, yeah.
Becoming
Have
really
you
popular.
ever done anything like that to cope with your stress? I don't know if you can answer that or not, but have you ever?
Oh,
done
I totally
it?
can,
Okay.
but I haven't.
You haven't, okay.
Not because I have any judgments around it. Again, I'm just like I don't think judgment has a place in our life. It doesn't help with anything, right? If it works for you, it works for you. Awesome.
Yeah.
But for me, I've never really used drugs at all to cope with how I manage. I think because I started therapy at such a young age, like I was 15.
Yeah.
And I know people started at a younger age, but I feel like once I was dealing with things, I was feeling, already had the support.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask a completely off-topic question based on what you just said right now, as far as drugs were just not for you. Can I ask, do you consider cannabis and mushrooms and these things drugs?
I used to, but I would say now, because they're doing enough research around the use of them, and we have the abilities, especially in California and other states where it's legal, we are able to know exactly what we're taking, right? Because like back when I was a teenager, like you drive into a parking lot and pick up weed from like a stranger essentially, and like you hope that it is what they say it is, right? But now we're able to say like, oh, I want this amount of THC, this amount of CBD. And it's way more complicated than that, but right. I think as long as it's able to, we know how it affects people and it's been studied a little bit. I think that if it's helpful for people, I think that's wonderful. One of my best friends is doing research right now and working on treatment using psilocybin and how that's helpful for trauma. And I have tons of patients and viewers alike who've used ketamine infusions to help with their intense depression and suicidal thoughts. So I definitely think what we used to think of as illicit drugs is not what it is now. I think things have definitely shifted.
Yeah.
It has.
And thank God, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, again, thank you again for everything and your book, Traumatized. I am going to. Well, it's pre-order. I have to wait till September.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I can get you one. Squeeze you one out a little earlier.
And can you sign? Yeah. Woo! Okay.
I'm going to send a personal book, Traumatized, over to Anita. She's going to need it. She really does.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's an unedited version, but you'll get the gist.
Okay, I'll be in touch. I'm excited.
Yes.
Okay, again, thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to borrow the book as soon as you.
Yes, I think you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Katie. A lot of people have so much out there to learn from you and your words. So look her up, Kati Morton. She's out there. Her YouTube is huge. Amazing. Check her out, you guys. Thank you, Katie.
Thanks, Katie.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good one.
You too. Thanks. That was really good. That was great. Okay, 1 through 10, what do I get?
You get an 11.
Woo!
You get an 11. You did a great job. You did a great job. You seemed nervous with the intro, but that's okay. You were trying to do it the way I was doing it, and I want you to do your own Anita thing. You were really trying to.
Yes. But you're a good mentor and you're good at it. So,
but that's my style. That's not your style. You got to create your own style.
Yeah, to be my own style.
No. You have such a good style. You did great.
Okay.
I think she was great. I like Katie.
Really
She's really informative. It's hard, I think, for anyone when you're in a conversation with someone who's a therapist. People naturally just start unloading on them. And it's in every setting. And I think that's what happened, because not only are we sitting here asking her for her tools and recommendations on how to deal with it, we're naturally getting triggered with our own stories and we're just blurting it out to her and hoping she's going to shrink us right now too. But she was so nice and she was so helpful.
And comforting and nice. And that whole shaking.
Can you do it again?
I'll
help you move your microphone.
I don't think I need this right now.
I want to see you just shake it like it's a Polaroid picture.
It was just.
No, it was more to it than that.
Just everything and just letting loose in your head and your body, and then just.
It gets me a little dizzy. Doesn't it get you dizzy?
A little dizzy to get the adrenaline going, but then you just. Just breathe. Let it all out. I think. Yeah. Oh my God.
See, that's the
body image,
mental health
yes,
part
the
that she's
mental
talking
health.
about, that you think you're actually, like, that's bad.
Oh, it does have right and left. Hold on. Okay, there we go. So, that said, I think it's great. I think I think a lot of it does stem back to going into your past and figuring out, because like, why am I so anxious? What happened that made me like that? So just to be able to get to comfortable with someone and talk to them about it, I think that's great. And I feel like there's so many people out there that can relate to this.
And you know what? It's not always a trauma that has to have happened in order to make us anxious or anxiety driven. Sometimes you're just a product of your environment, and maybe the people around you operated the similar ways, and that's just what you're raised into. You're not going to be different than what you're, in front of, right? And then there's times that we do have chemical imbalances that are more significant than others, that maybe elevate those situations or elevate our moods, where medication's going to help sort of, bring that down. But I don't think it's a trauma you should be looking for, because it sounded like you were asking Katie, well, what happened to me? Like, nothing happened. Like, you're like, Gigi went through this, blah, 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 blah. And it makes sense for her to have all this. You're like, I didn't go through that. Why am I? You know what I mean?
Well, it's like I didn't go through. I feel like there wasn't maybe something, but it's also like, I don't know how. I don't take my, like, I don't cut myself. I don't like.
No, but right
punch
now,
a wall or whatever. So I want to know what my.
It's different. You found different ways to cope. Your coping mechanism is by not sleeping, not eating, and just working. That's how you cope with your stress. If you were to stop all that, you would probably start getting panic attacks.
Yeah, I would. Yeah,
100%. Until you start healing that, because panic attacks are our bodies telling us to stop.
Yeah.
Slow the fuck down. Stop, relax, get help. Help me. It's your body screaming. It almost feels like death, because that's what your body's, going through.
And you went through. You had one recently.
Oh, I had it as a disorder.
No, but
I had
recently,
it bad.
I remember you're like, we were in the car.
Huh?
We were in the car.
Yeah, I was having a panic attack.
And I remember you had the panic attack.
I get them. I'm not afraid of them anymore.
Yeah.
I think that's the difference between before. I think what sets a panic attack off, and most people end up in the emergency room, they're like, I'm dying.
Yeah.
It's because we're afraid of what's happening and we don't understand it. Yeah. And then I went through, years of therapy, and I understood what a panic attack is. And once that happened, I said, okay, the panic attack is happening. I need to control my breathing. I need to, shift my thoughts, because that's what was happening. We were in the car. I was like, I was checking my pulse.
I was driving,
like, okay.
And you put the seat back a little bit. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, you're going to pull over. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, yeah. What do you want me to do? Like, I remember, and you just kind of dealt with it in your way.
I was like, I'm fine.
Like,
I just need to focus on my breathing. One thing I learned was the 7-Eleven technique, which is easy to remember because the 7-Eleven stores. But it's to focus your breathing, to get an inhale of 7, to hold it, and then let it out on a count of 11. It's next to fucking impossible, even when you're not having a panic attack. But it's the distraction of your mind and redirecting your oxygen to your brain that slows everything down. They say, name 3 things you could see, name 3 things you could feel, 3 things that, are touching. And it's about distracting your mind, because a panic attack is just your body's way of saying, you fucked me up at some point. I'm coming back. And now it comes back and you're like, oh my God, I'm dying. I'm having a heart attack. Oh my God, 911. I can't breathe. And they're like, panic attack. But they still have to come, because, it's 911.
So it's funny, because when you said 7-Eleven technique, I thought it was like you drive into a 7-Eleven and get a Slurpee. And
you could do that. If you're in the middle of a panic attack and you could drive, bitch, go to 7-Eleven and get yourself a Slurpee.
So it was great today. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to kind of step in and be, take the lead on this today.
Yeah.
And
you were great. And I think that people would love to see you come back and try again and again and again, because you know what? There's a lot of people out there that would probably love to have this opportunity to do a podcast, and maybe they're nervous as well too. And watching you, break through your nervous issue with this and doing it and scoring, it's probably motivates people too. Thank you guys. Thank you. We love you. She loves you. Show some love and support to Anita for doing this. Write that in the comments down there in the reviews. Subscribe, bitch.
Yeah, I don't want her to fire my ass. So give me feedback.
tonight.
And let me know what you want from us and from me.
That sounds very sexual. I'm not a part of that part, but
Thanks, guys.
let
Take
us
care.
know. Mwah!
Mwah.
Thanks for listening to Genuinely Gigi. Download new episodes every week. And if you haven't already, subscribe. And be sure to leave us a rating and review. And while you're at it, check out some of the other great shows available on Straw Hut Media.